Here at the 1982 Greater Hartford Open, we have PBA veterans like Jeff Mattingly and Marshall Holman. And we also have some fresher faces, Jeff Bellinger, Pete Weber, and the #1 ranked Pete McCordick. We now join the Holman-Bellinger match in progress on ESPN Classic.
Because this is a critical shot for him. He's down by 21. 7th frame, he can cut that lead of Bellinger's down to 11 and put some pressure on him.
Somebody, one of the workmen out there was disturbing Marshall Holman a little bit, and his bow said, Harry Golden always says something every week. The name of the game is concentration, and it really is. It's like a guy getting ready for a putt or a shot in golf. There you see Pete Weber. He was practicing, talked to his daddy a while ago.
When it rains, it pours. Unbelievable. Holman just could not get his thoughts together. Sent it out wide and right in the old moat. Here he comes up the line. He's playing that outside trajectory, and Marshall always trusts the ball to the right. This time, there was the gray board right to the right, as we know it, and he gets 0 from the frame. He has to make this to have any chance in the match.
That is not the portrait of a happy man, I'll tell you that. We're going to see the gutter ball again.
See Marshall
in the channel.
Out about the 3rd board, but he just sent it a little wider than usual. Remember, he throws that big hook, and he can depend on it coming back, but once it slips off, it'll never come back, and even if it had to bounce out, it wouldn't count, David. What a turnaround. He could have cut the lead down to 11. It now becomes 31 pins. He has to get his act together now.
A little mark of greatness there. He'll go back after that and regain his composure enough to throw for a strike.
Well, looking back, if that first ball had been a strike as a spare shot, he'd have been only trailing by 1. Instead, he's trailing by 31. What a tremendous turnaround on one frame with the ball wide.
30 pins, and here's a man who can, I guess you'd have to say, can take control of the match right here. Somebody up there likes him today.
Dave, there has to be a cliche. Marshall Holman, nothing is going right for him. Everything right for Bellinger. Bellinger throws a shot that could have changed the match around and handed it right back to Holman. He throws it right in the nose and carries the 6 pin forward. If that was a 4-6 split, Holman would have been right back in the match. Now he trails by 41. What a turnaround.
He deserved the split, didn't he?
Well, you can't really say he deserved. He tried to get it when you throw him that high.
Out there dangerously too.
It's not over. He's left the 2-7. He's left. If he does not convert this, he's left Holman room to win this match. Same shot that happened earlier when he hung out wide. Holman had the 2-8-10, and here Bellinger gets the 2-10s. Tough split, David.
How would you go about it?
You have to slide the 2 pin over into the 10. You have to hit the left side of the 2.
Oh, hit it too solidly. So he has an open frame, and that opens a door for Marshall Holman. Let's look at it again.
Bellinger catches a little too much of the 2 pin, drives it back into the pit instead of the 10 pin, but it set the situation up for Holman. Bellinger's going at a 2-13 pace. Marshall Holman still has a possible 2-16, but he has to throw strikes. Marshall in a position to come back and win this match, Dave. If he strikes here, he forces Bellinger to mark. If he strikes in the 10th and 11th, he would force Bellinger to double. So Holman, if he would like to end this winning streak, losing streak right here, is in a must situation. Needs to strike, taking a little extra time, David.
He's consulting with Harry Golden there. He's apparently asked for a re-rack and got it. As you mentioned, if you can get 1. If you ask for 2, you got to ask for it. Got to ask permission.
Well, it's in the tournament director's judgment whether those pins are in a fair position to strike. They are legal, but the players like them perfectly on spot. Sometimes the machine hits it. Right now, Holman needs a strike.
Very thin. What caused that, though? What caused him to be thin on that?
Well, he just sent it wide. It's very similar to the ball he threw in the channel. Here it is out wide, and he needed to come back to the strike. Holman's a trust player. He's not going to pull the ball when he needs it. Just went too wide, but he needed that strike. This is going to be defeat number 10 for Marshall Holman. The best he can do, David, is 194. Jeff Bellinger needs 2 pins to win the match. Disappointing, I know.
You think that a guy is 0 for 10 in championship, maybe he will start believing that there is such a thing as a jinx?
Well, I think the real test will be next week at the Firestone. Marshall Holman, things have a way of turning around at the Firestone Tournament Champions, and don't count that man out.
So Jeff Ballinger is the winner of our first match. A guy who practices 150 games a week. The young man that he will face, of course, will be Pete Weber. Bowlers Tour, and if the name Weber strikes a familiar tone to you, that's as it should be. Pete Weber, son of Dick Weber, leading by 25 against Jeff Bellinger. Not an ounce of deviation in his last 3 shots. All right on the same line, all right in the same area of the pocket, and all 3 strikes, Bo.
David, he's just bowling as well as anybody on the tour right now. He left a solid 10 in the first frame, then buried 3 more for strikes. He's waiting for the ball so well. The hardest thing to do in the game of bowling is wait for the ball, especially with that high backswing. Weber's just letting it happen and not forcing it. He looks very tough out there today.
You mentioned that he's waiting for the ball. Now, can you make an analogy there between that and golf? You hear golf pros all the time saying wait and wait for the action, wait for the ball.
Well, very simply, if you try to pull the trigger on a golf club too quickly, either your hips slide by or you don't get the leverage and hit the ball squarely. Same way with a bowling ball. You cannot force it.
Wait for it to happen all at once. And Jeff Bellinger has fallen behind young Pete Weber. You talk about a kid being only 19 years old. He's been out here for 3 years. As Bo mentioned, when you've been in the finals as many times as he has, that has a tendency to mature you, I think. So shouldn't be deceived by looking at him saying, gee, he's only 19.
Jeff Bellinger, this is his 2nd championship round appearance. He made it in the King Louis Open, then up here in Greater Hartford Open. And he's a man you're going to hear a lot from. He's a strong guy. He's got a real nice compact swing, and he's a good, hard fighter out on the lanes.
He's been scattering them all afternoon, and that time scattered all but 1, left to 7.
Well, Jeff is playing the wrong line to the pocket. He's too far outside, depending on that ball to break so sharply at the back end. He almost leaves the 7-10 on a wall shot there. The head pin came across, knocked the 4 into the 10. But he's going to have to get lucky to catch up to young Weber while he's playing that line.
And Pete Weber now leads by 46 pins. This a most important frame for him. He's working on 4 in a row and bowling in the 6th frame. Cry goes up in the background. Pete, Pete, Pete.
Well, he's sure doing it. He's leading by 56 pins. 6 great shots to start the match. He had that solid 10 in the first frame. Got a little break there where he tripped out to 4-9. But he definitely has the gauntlet in hand. He's got Bellinger under his foot, and he can just mash him with another strike here.
great start by Pete Weber. Was that pressure that caused him to go across and hit the Brooklyn there, Bo?
Not so much pressure, David. I think it's just the human element. You talked about that high backswing having trouble with control, and every once in a while, especially a power player that's young like that, when he misses, he'll miss 3 or 4 boards to the left of his target. You get an erratic shot like that, it breaks all the way across the Brooklyn. He got a good break and an easy spare. Muhammad was 7 pounds over the weight and got TKO'd by Braxton in his last fight. Let's see if he's in shape for this fight. It'll be an interesting fight if he isn't. He should win if he's in shape, though.
Jeff Bellinger is in bad shape in this match with Pete Weber.
Well, Bellinger tried to make a move inside of more of the trajectory. See his ball's in on about the 12th board at the 45-foot mark. He took a gamble, moved inside. He did make the right guess by moving inside, but he didn't move far enough left. If he's going to catch up in the match, he needs almost all strikes and disaster to hit young Weber.
And you could see him talking to himself. I'll tell you, don't want the door open any wider than that for Pete Weber.
I think it opened and closed in one shot. Here's Jeff. He just kind of lost it. As you said before, a lot of these young players, David, has struggled quite a bit with spares when they quit striking. And Jeff has had trouble getting strikes in this match with only 2 strikes in the first 7 frames. He's going at a 170 pace.
And the old grandpa, Dick Weber, can sit back down in his chair now and relax, I think. That's a strike, but carefully, it probably comes a little late in this match against Pete Weber. We're going to watch the way he lofts the ball.
All right, you want to get the ball about 18 to 24 inches over the line and have it land like an airplane. You see the ball goes up. That one there, he had a little extra bounce on. He was out about 2 feet. But that's the lift putting the ball out there and not throwing it out there. Look at the action on the pins. Saws that 5 into the 4-7. Good strike, but it may be a little too late.
Looks like a good hit.
Another solid 10, just part of the game, David. The 6-pin goes flying up around the 10. You'll watch it be the second pin on the right-hand part of your screen. It normally goes to the sideboard and actually comes back and hits the 10. Watch what happens here. There it goes up in the air, hits the sideboard, but doesn't come back and get the 10. Definitely a wrap.
A young man who's cashed in 9 of 14 tournaments. That shuts the door, doesn't it? There's Dee Dee. She likes that.
She's checking the scoreboard, but there's not much to check. Young Weber doesn't even show up. He's got a 208 game. The best Jeff Bellinger can do is 200. It's going to be a very tough match coming up. Young Weber against Jeff Mattingly, who finished with a 260 average for the last 5 games last night.
Dead on the head pin.
Dave, you have to wonder what Marshall Holman's thinking about. Here, Bellinger got a bunch of good breaks against him and knocked him out, keep his streak going, and then he completely falls apart against young Weber. I guess when you're snake bit, they don't let loose very easily. Bellinger could have the dubious distinction of rolling possibly the lowest game in the championship round this year. If he doesn't convert this, he'll be in the 150.
But he did convert it. Pete Weber, the winner, and finally he permits a small smile to crease his face. This is Jeff Mattingly from Ukiah, California. Tell me about his style, Bo.
Well, Jeff is one of the original crankers or power players that came out on a tour with Roth and Holman. He throws the big hook ball. He depends on staying wide. He depends on real good carry at the back end. And when he gets hot, David, just almost Katie bar the door. He strikes almost every time.
He was so hot last night in the final. Boy, just amazing.
260 in the last 5 games with a 287 climax.
He was really awkward at the line there. I don't know whether we're going to be able to see that again or not. I guess we are. Why was he so awkward at the line?
Jeff has a history of having a little trouble with approaches and with spares. And the combination of the two right here, he slips a little bit on the foul line. His shoulders were behind the foul line. His shoulders were too far forward. David lets it get away, slides right by the 2-pin, open the door for young Weber in the first frame.
started that just like he did the last match. Good pocket hit and left the 10.
Keep it wide, keep it out of trouble. But with that powerful ball that Pete Weber and Jeff Mattingly throw, if they could keep the ball in the light or thin pocket, don't go up high in the nose, David, they're going to get a lot of strikes and some big scores.
And you're going to avoid splits that way, aren't you?
Definitely, except for the real light split we saw in the first match where you have the 2-8-10 or the 2-10.
That Weber was plus 11 because Mike knows you should not miss that, and he didn't.
Weber throws quite a bit harder at spares, and that's really a good idea, a good tip to take for anyone, is that you just have to touch the spare to knock it over, and Jeff Mattingly knows that as he went by the 2-pin last frame. You need that extra speed. Somewhere up around 20 miles an hour, that ball was thrown by young Weber. And the average strike ball, David, is around 18 for ideal strike carry.
We may be having a young hero coming on the tour here. The crowd picking up the chant, Pete, Pete, Pete.
Well, it's good for bowling, and many of these fans have been here year after year after year. They feel very comfortable coming down to the championship round, and they pick a favorite and root for him. You can't blame them for that.
And they recognize that name, don't they?
Yes, they do.
But Mattingly stayed up at the line an extra moment or two. And you look at him and you ask yourself, does he know why he did that, or is he trying to figure out why he did that?
I think only he can answer that question. Jeffrey was using a hard plastic ball in practice, has switched to a urethane ball. For what reason, only he knows. We'll see what happens later on in the match.
And it's 2 in a row. This is almost unheard of. Almost unheard of. But no curve on the ball at all. Try to throw it absolutely straight, almost like we used to call the old backup ball.
I agree, David, but actually that is probably the best percentage of making spares, but Jeffrey's probably his blood pressure went up about 80 points when he slid by that second one. He threw too much hook on the first one, tried to compensate on that slid by. He's only got 18 in the second frame.
You got to wake up. And pulled it too much, got on the Brooklyn side.
Well, Jeff is in what the players call possible buzzard position, David. If you get 3 strikes in a row, we call it a turkey, but if you get 3 opens in a row, we call it a buzzard. If he would happen to miss here, he would have the first buzzard of the season on the Pro Bowlers Tour.
It's not funny, but he's managing a smile. What a class gentleman.
Jeff Mattingly gets that ball well out over the foul line, hand underneath it, and very much like Bellinger, lofts the ball out about 2.5, 3 feet on the lane, and he uses that to delay the hook. It keeps the ball from breaking too quickly.
It's almost as though he's pitching it out there.
Well, he has that low profile, and he is underneath the ball with those powerful forearms. He does lift it out with his wrist, though. You don't want to just throw it out. To release the young Pete Weber, watch the great wrist action. Watch that hand. Now, see where that wrist is? Perfect shot right there, and the hand and wrist rotate around the ball. That imparts the many revolutions. He gets up to 15 on some shots. That's what eats up the pins and gets the good hook, David.
Pete Weber, 19 years old. I don't even remember being 19.
Sometimes I still think you are 19, David, even though I know you're maybe even pushing 50 now.
From which side? Pete Weber is on a roll, 3 in a row. Along with Bo Burton, this is Dave Dials. We're live from Windsor Locks, Connecticut at the Bradley Bowl, here for the 9th time. And this is Jeff Mattingly out of Ukiah, California. Needs some help and needs it now. Goes wide on the Brooklyn, gets away with it. A lot of action.
Davey got a good break. He crossed over, but who can forget the courageous comeback that Jeff Mattingly had in the Greater Miami Open, where he threw the ball in the channel on the very first shot and got his act together and came on back. You can see the lucky shot he gets here, a crossover.
You talk about courage. I'll tell you about a young man, Danny Smith, a friend of mine out in Michigan, has just undergone his 32nd operation. and has an attitude better than almost anybody I know. And he's getting well, and he's watching Pro Bowlers Tour every Saturday.
Good, David.
That is the first time that Mattingly has thrown one ball today that closely resembles what he was throwing last night.
Agreed. He was playing that inside line last night, but he opted to try the outside angle on the championship pair here, 27-28 in practice. He thought he had success with it. As we've seen, the players playing outside the first arrow, have struggled. Holman struggled a little bit. Bellinger was fortuitous, but he got by one match, then died in the second one.
Fortuitous?
I don't know what it means, but I think he was lucky. And now Pete Weber has got a chance to really open it up with a 42-pin lead with another strike.
You hear the chant, Pete, Pete, Pete. Sissy must have got you a dictionary for Christmas or something, didn't she? You've been reading through that thing?
Unabridged. It was very small, though.
Fortuitous.
Thanks. Weber has the right line. And the way to judge how to play the right line on a bowling lane, David, is you have to take a few test shots. See how your ball reacts for you. If you're missing left, move left. You're missing right, move right. Adjust your speed and your equipment.
But you're telling me all the years that I've been doing this with you that you have to adjust during the match, too, because the lights and the changing conditions of the lane. So will he have to change a little?
Those are small adjustments, but the big decision whether to play inside the track area or outside the track area has to be made before you go into the championship round. There's an example, David, of what you just said. As the lanes dry up, the lane conditioner the lane gets hooking a little bit more. The lane conditioner leaves the lane, and the ball breaks quite a bit sharper. That time, young Weber thought he was solid in the pocket and almost went high.
Was he fortuitous in avoiding a split?
Oh, he got even luckier and got a strike if the forward fell into the 9.
Pete Weber, 41 pins in front of this man, Jeff Mattingly. Talk about paying your dues as an amateur. This man bowled in 5 leagues a week, starting at the age of 7 bowling career. Needs a strike desperately and gets it. Jeff Mattingly out of Ukiah, California, and Bo talked to him earlier today and asked him very frankly, what does the trip to the Firestone mean to you?
In '79, I finished 3rd in the Firestone. I felt I had a real good chance to win. I'd like to go back and give it another try because this year I don't want to have to ask somebody what it was like to be in the Firestone.
Sounds like a free commercial. He doesn't have to ask a friend about Firestone. If he can get his act together here, he can push young Weber and cut that lead of 31 down to 21 with one more strike.
Has to have it. Dead on the head pin. Dead on it. The last thing in the world he needed to stay competitive in this match.
Door open and closed on one shot, very similar to what happened to Holman. He gets close in the match, then a really bad break. Holman went off in the channel, hit Mattingly right through the heart for a 4-6 split.
I understand that we are having occasional transmission problems. That's not it there, but our crack technicians are working on it. The fault is not in your set. And the fault is not with Pete Weber today, I'll tell you that, leading by 45. You want to know what I'm impressed by right now? That the bowlers wait through that commercial break. And here's a 19-year-old young man who waits through that break and comes back, throws a strike. That tells me something, doesn't it?
You can't beat discipline and experience. Young Weber has kept his concentration together. He's found it in some of the other championship rounds. He's been red hot, such as in the Peoria True Value Open. He was red hot, then lost it. He said he just lost his concentration. He's kept it very well so far today.
Trying to get a double in 8. That's his first really bad hit of the day.
Dave, he has to do what you were talking about. He has to make the adjustment on the lane. The left-hand lane apparently has dried out in the track area, the worn area between the second and third area. The ball is breaking a little sharper than he wants it. He has to make a move left on the approach, farther left on the approach, and throw that ball a little more inside between the third and fourth arrow.
He has, in the past, had some trouble with spares.
Well, he said that was lack of concentration, but he's taken a little extra time today, and he's been perfect with the spares so far.
Perfect there. In the 8th, Pete Weber with a spare. He is leading Jeff Mattingly by 45 pins. Mattingly, it would seem, has to do it now or forget it. And he didn't do it.
Mattingly, with the best he can do with a conversion here, and strikes in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, a 4-bagger finish will be a 2-0-4 game as he cuts right through the heart, leaves the 3-6, the same spare that young Weber left in the 8th frame. Also, watch the difference in style. Mattingly, with not as much speed as young Weber, may have a little more trouble. Good shot.
I should mention, too, that the defending champion, Wayne Webb, finished 49th. And people say, where's Art Trask this week? Doing very well, thank you. He's a 3-time winner on the tour. He told me last night, I just wasn't up psychologically this week. It's the week before Akron. And so it was kind of a down week for him. Earl Anthony is not competing this week.
And Trask got some money. I think he finished 38th place out of the 53 spots paid in the tournament.
Leaves the 10. Been several opportunities today for Jeff Mattingly to surge back into this match. But each time he's had that opportunity, he has not taken advantage of it. And Pete Weber is well in control, I would think.
Jeff just made a bad guess at the onset of the match. He missed 2 easy spares, which really started him in trouble, but then he played the wrong line to the pocket.
How important is this shot right here for Pete Weber?
Well, it's just a matter of keeping his concentration, I think, now, Dave. The best Jeff Mattingly can do is a 193, barring any complete failure by young Weber, such as a breaking leg or something. He's going to be well in the 200, so he's got the match in hand if he just completes the game.
What a way to complete it. A strike in the 9th. And once again, you hear the chant, Pete, Pete, Pete.
Pete, a possible 249 with 3 more strikes.
If you're wondering, Pete Weber is 5'7" and 135 pounds with lead weights and he slacks. Crossed over and got by with it on the Brooklyn. Pete Weber. You don't get the first one, you can't get them all. Pete McCordick strikes in the first.
The key to watch for young Pete Weber, not only thinking about winning his first title, but can he hit the left-hand lane? We saw he got out to a quick start in the last match, and then he seemed to lose the left-hand lane, crossing over for a strike, going through the nose for the 3-6 spare, and then he went high again in the 10th frame. Let's see what he does. He's apparently killing the right-hand lane, but he has to put them both together to win the match. Pete with 5-step approach, using a whole approach, but he's stiff-legged a bit on his 3rd step. Watch as he comes through the 3rd step. See, he's stiff-legged, then gets a good knee bend, follows through straight to the target, and see how deep he's playing on the lane. He's almost sliding in the left-hand channel. Big shot here. He's looking down at the approach, going to make an adjustment to the left, Dave. It's important that he gets this one close to the pocket.
I think he made the right adjustment, though, didn't he?
He struck, Dave, but he didn't strike, but he did make the right adjustment, and it's going to carry on through the match. If he can just give it plenty of room like that on every shot, he'll keep the ball in play, and he'll get his share of strikes with that big strike hook ball he throws.
And that has to help him psychologically.
Has to make this spare first, though.
And he does it. Yeah, we talk about the tremendously loyal audience of people who watch the Pro Bowlers tour on television. A couple of nice young friends of mine Barbara Smith and Chap Brown. Chap's a former tennis grade at University of Florida, getting married this afternoon, so they're taping the Pro Bowlers show today so they can watch it on their honeymoon.
Ah, congratulations.
So thin.
Thought he had a strike. The right-hand lane a little bit tighter. Pete went through that shot very well. But remember, he only had 3 practice balls on each lane, so he wasn't absolutely sure that the lanes were different. Now he knows the right-hand lane is about a board tighter than the left-hand lane.
No PBA title so far for this man. This could be his first one. I remember you doing a bowling tip on that. That's not an easy spare to make.
He made a great shot. Here's the form of Pete McCordick. The only little problem that Pete may have is occasionally he'll lose his backswing out to the right, but he comes straight through the shot with good lift, good follow-through, and he's one of the steady players on the Pro Bowlers Tour.
You can see the big beads of perspiration there. Right on the money. Second place finishes, 1973 Northern Ohio Open, 1978 Portland Open, the 1978 Buffalo Open. We dasn't call him a bridesmaid, but he's been knocking at the door a little bit. He's no kid out there.
Style similar to another former bridesmaid, Art Trask, who finally got it together and won 3 titles so far this year.
He does own lane 28, doesn't he?
No doubt about it, that high backswing, the strong, powerful ball of young Pete Weber, keep his eye on the target all the way through and follow through towards the target. Notice how the inside of the forearm of young Weber goes right towards that third arrow, solid in the pocket. No doubt about that one. Match all even through 3 frames.
Nelson Burton, Jr. This is Dave Dials. We're live from Windsor Locks, Connecticut. And to some of you out there, it may not seem that we are totally live because we are having continuing transmission problems. The fault is not in your set. We do apologize. We are attempting to make corrections. We could correct our transmission problems as well as Pete Weber has corrected his problems on lane 27. We'd be in like a burglar, wouldn't we?
You're right, David. He made a good shot in the 4th frame. He sent it wide, blew the 5 out. And McCordick coming up in the 4th frame, trying to tie the match back up, left the weak 10. Has to go cross lane with extra speed, make sure on this spare.
He's pressed up against the ball return. Pete McCordick out of Houston, Texas, 10 years on the tour and no victories. Bo Burton talked with him earlier and asked him why he's done so well here.
I think the main reason I bowled so well this week here is during the finals I was able to move out and play between the 1st and 2nd arrow, going pretty much up the boards. This is my best shot. It enabled me to carry. I felt real comfortable with the shot. I was able to make good shots and got loose with it.
But he can't play that line today. He has to play between the 2nd, 3rd arrow, the track area.
I noticed last night as he was just barely holding on to his lead. He went against Marshall Holman, and Marshall threw a heck of a game at him. And Pete never smiled once until it was all over, and he knew that he was in the driver's seat. Never cracked a smile.
Well, Holman had actually caught him with about 3 frames left, but McCordick came back with a turkey to be the tournament leader. Pete Weber could take a 20-pin lead with 1 more strike.
Better thank somebody for that. Fortuitous again, right?
No doubt about it. He has the 4-7-10 going in there. He's cutting through the 6-pin lays down in the channel. The 3-pin comes over and gives a little love tap. Great break.
And the old man's out there in St. Louis going, blow that 10-pin over. Very, very fortuitous. Pete Weber. We're going to take one more look at Pete Weber's release.
If you want to learn how to energize a bowling ball, emulate this release. The thumb down early in the release, wrist right on the side, medium loft, about 12 inches over the foul line, good roll. He gets up to 15 revolutions in the 60-foot of lane, David. A power shot.
That says it all, doesn't it? Pete McCordick and Pete Weber.
Amazing how the game of bowling equalizes so quickly. Weber got a great break in the 5th frame when he broke up the 4-7-10. Then he leaves a shot you very seldom ever leave, a solid 9. That ball cutting through so sharply, the 5-pin got chopped off the 9. Normally that's a strike. Pete has to settle for a spare.
And he gets it. This young man who is 5th in earnings in 1982. If he could win here today, you know, he'd go over the $100,000 mark in career earnings. Said, take that money today and make a down payment on a new house for myself and Dee Dee.
Well, that wouldn't be a bad idea right now. Pete McCordick hit light and left the 2-4-8 in the 2nd frame on the right-hand lane, then left the soft or weak 10 on a real good shot in the 4th. He needs a strike here in the 6th to take the lead in the match for the first time.
Little thin. Pete McCordick has an identical twin brother, Paul, who's also a PBA member. Plays at the regional level. But, I wouldn't say they're identical because brother's left-handed.
Well, Paul bowled a little bit on the tour and had some success, but Peter, by far, has proved to stick with the game more and been more diligent and has improved into a real great player.
Pete McCordick with a spare up in the 6th. Also not a simple pickup there. Trailing by 7.
One thing I like about McCordick's style is how he's so methodical and how he hits the foul line so solid. You very seldom ever see McCordick fall off balance. He's got everything in time as he comes through with the shot.
Pete McCordick with a strike in the 7th.
No doubt about it. Solid in the 1-3. The ball carries through the 5. 5 takes out the 8. The ball carries through and knocks the 9 out. Just steamrolled them over, all 10 in the pit.
Putting the pressure back on 19-year-old Pete Weber. Doesn't believe it. He does not believe it.
Solid 9 in the 6th, solid 10 in the 7th frame. The 6-pin just flies right over above the 10. Peter kind of blocks it out, but when we call it a solid 10 is when the 6-pin doesn't lay in the channel. Didn't like that reaction.
Still shaking his head.
He's been good with the spares so far today. You said he struggled a little bit in the tournament, but he's taken extra time, and they've been so important in the matches thus far.
The lead is now down to 6 pins. Pete Weber now on the lane where he has made a considerable adjustment. The left lane, the 27th, and probably saying to himself, now would be a very good time to get a strike, and I can put the ball back in McCordick's court.
Agreed. He will keep the lead. He doesn't want to have McCordick come up there without Pete Weber having a strike posted in the 8th frame. Only 6 pins separate the two players. Just did send it out wide enough. We noticed the other shots that he was around the pocket on the left-hand lane in the second, fourth, where he got a strike, in the sixth frame where he left a solid 9. We're very wide. This ball breaks much earlier. He cuts through and leads the 3-10 baby split.
See the odds there. 2-1 for a pro. And he is a pro. And he misses it. Gets the 10, leaves the 3.
Surprises me, he went with a hook ball after that, David. He throws the straight ball for the 6-pin, the 10-pin, the 9-pin, all his single-pin spares, and yet the hook ball cuts down his odds of making the 3-10. The straight shot, as he had been using those single-pin spares, would have been a much better choice.
I think that's lack of experience, maybe, or
Indecision, I think. Peter has the experience, but right now McCordick is in the lead for the first time. He took the lead sitting on the bench. He can increase the lead to 17 with a strike.
we're going to watch Pete McCordick from behind.
Two things to watch with Peter is watch his arm swing as it bumps out slightly to the right at the top of the swing, but how he realigns and gets it right in close to his ankle, almost slides, hits himself in the ankle as it goes by his foot.
Weren't you playing with him one time when he did hit his ankle?
On a 297 game, he had 11 in a row, hit his ankle, and missed the head pin on the right, but good discipline by this young man.
Well, as the old announcer, the late Van Patrick used to say, we now have a cliffhanger on our hands.
Anybody's match.
The trip to Akron is, I suppose, as big a prize as anything else. $13,000 to the winner here today, but everybody wants to go to Akron.
McCordick can ensure himself of a chance to win the tournament if he can strike on this ball, because no matter what Pete Weber does, if McCordick strikes, he can still win the match.
Now the crowd saying ahead of time, come on, Pete.
It's anybody's match, whoever can perform in the 9th and 10th. McCordick cannot be shut out. He still has a possible 220. Young Pete Weber, a possible 213. Yet 7 pins separate the two players. 2 frames to go.
Possible tie, correct?
Well, it'd almost be impossible, David, to have a tie, I think, because Weber would have to strike and get 7 on this ball, and McCordick be spare and strike. So I guess you're right. It could be a tie, but right now, young Weber has to strike to take the lead in the match. See trust. Pete Weber started that ball from the left-hand channel all the way out to about the 6th board and broke it all the way back. He covered about 13 boards in the last few feet of the lane, getting it up to right around the light area, and he's taken the lead in the match. In order to have a tie now, David, we would need a 7 count or 6 count out of Pete Weber. We would have a possible tie.
Look at this. Look at that excitement.
Pete Weber with a 7 count or better will force Pete McCordick to throw 2 strikes. Needs 7 or better to force Pete McCordick to strike twice.
You saw the graphic before. He has never won a PBA title.
Just enough, David. 7's as good as a strike, because what that sets up is a 2-10 game. McCordick must strike twice to win. If he strikes and gets 9, the final score would be 209 to 210. The graph is correct. McCordick needs 2 strikes to win. He has not had a strike on the right-hand lane in the match. He was light in the 2nd frame. He left a 10 pin in the 4th. He was light in the 6th. Left a 4 pin in the 8th. Right now, he can afford no more non-strikes on the right-hand lane.
And he leads the 7th, and you see Pete Weber and Dee, and they're talking about a new house.
And a trip to the Firestone.
That's not perspiration, ladies and gentlemen. Those are tears of joy. And there's some being shed in St. Louis right now, too, I guarantee you.